What's up, guys? It is the Bad Wolf. Woo, woo, woo. Wah, wah, wah. For some people watching, you don't know me. I'm just your neighborhood man in black, truth teller, and the truth shall set you free. The Bad Wolf. That's it. Just a guy who does some research. If this is your first time here, hit that bell, like, subscribe. If not, you've been here before and you still haven't hit that bell, like, or subscribe, it'd be ever so kind if you would please rewind and hit that button in kind. Thanks, thanks, and thanks. That being said, let's get some of the formalities out of the way. This is the third part of the Judge Dale PDF, which is free on the internet. So everything contained here is education and entertainment purposes only. Information. You are to do your own research. Me, nor my nation, nor YouTube, if I may be so bold to speak on their behalf, are these necessary information in here their opinions, thoughts, or views? None of us take any responsibility for any guest on my show, et cetera, et cetera. This is all entertainment. You are to do your own research. And as I've always told you, vet all information, no matter where you get it from, even if it is me. If you're watching, listen to somebody else, and they're not telling you stuff like this, it's a good sign that they're probably don't have your best interests in mind. That's what I do. I already have my truth. I'm just giving you guys a perspective, little deep dive, little alternative history. Be careful of people out there overcharging you for packages, hiding their face, hiding their real name, charging too much. If they focus on crapping on people that are not at war with them, to try to clap back or clap at people, to have like a little YouTube rivalry. Well, that's not going to happen here. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. I've heard the people out there talk about me, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever else. I don't really care. I'm not 12 years old. I'm not going to sit in the sandbox with you. But if you guys want something of me in your mouth, like my name, cool. Put it on your platform and let those people then come and find me because you know what's happening? I'm getting a lot of referrals from your people, meaning your people. And they seem to like the information and how I present it. It is what it is. If you say anybody out there using any of my information or talking about me in a negative way, a defamatory way, which is a suitable offense, feel free, you guys, to use the button over there to report them, the video or their YouTube channel for bullying, slandering, and defamation of character. Thank you in advance. Everything here is constitutional, private, civil, criminal, law, private, family, and whatever else. Everything that we use on a daily basis, and we don't even know how we move in and out of these jurisdictions. Well, I'm here to teach you that and understand this for the public record. Me, nor my nation, or my private government, or my public government are a part of any sovereign citizen movement at all. Not now, not then, nor will we ever be. We are not against the government. We are not against the municipalities or the police at all. We're against the traitors of this country. We're against those people against the Constitution and our rights, freedoms, and liberties. But even still, yet, not even in a belligerent or combatant way. We just want our rights. And if you're against us having rights and freedom of speech, then you're a traitor to these United States of America. But once again, don't tread on me. We're still going to just do what we need to do and not work with you because one of the biggest secrets that these people have is that they need our time, our attention. They want to feed us trash music, trash food, trash things to put on our body, control our minds, our times, and our behinds. So we just need to take our ball and go home and go back to the private because their political empire, though not American, will, how shall we say, go hungry if we start to wake up and work with each other in the private. And even though we may disagree on certain things, the real American way, by way of the creator, is for us to agree to disagree, but still be cool. I don't have to believe in your faiths the way you do for us to be cool. I'm just saying. With that being said, guys, let's get into it. Don't forget to check out blacksite32.com and jamesclovett.com. There is, oh, wait, you didn't hear about that channel? My other website, that is? No? Oh, there's some fire information over there, but I will tell you in advance that is the private stuff they don't want you to know. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not there for you guys to use and abuse, but definitely to use privately. And it is pay to stream over there, so each video is individually priced on the topics that you may find of interest. Other than that, Black Site 32, though, has good resources, a lot of free stuff to help you out on a daily basis. So thank you in advance for whatever you do. And then to my good people in the Wolf Pack, thank you for supporting me monthly on my YouTube channel. Now, let's get to the third installment of the Badwolf video on Judge Dale, the great American. Well, he said adventure, but I'm going to say deception. Allegedly. So let's take a look, guys. Let's wrap this last video up, and then I can relax for the day because I'm tired. All right, let's see here. Where's the video? Where is it? Ah, there it is. Okay, try it again. There we go. Now we're going into the Holy Roman Church. All right, so this should not be taken personally or as fact or history, but let's just see what Judge Dale, which their views and opinions do not reflect my own, and some things are I agree with, some things I don't. Let's get going.
Contrary to popular opinion, royalty and competence have never been synonymous. Now, the Holy Roman Church. One concession in particular was to grant Pope Innocent III his royal permission to edit the Holy Christian Bible, and as a result of his intervention, 8 Gospels were eliminated or lost, and many other Gospels were purloined. King James never publicly disclosed Pope Innocent's intervention, and he eventually revealed to his subjects the only authorized version of the Holy Christian Bible, which most Christians refer to as the King James Version. In the 18th century, at the Treaty of Verona, the high contracting powers, European criminal cabal, applauded the Pope and his successful efforts to make Christians more docile. Page 63 of 94. The Great American Adventure, and all of the members present agreed that a free press and any Republican form of government was detrimental to their cause, and the Pope pledged that the Church would continue to do all it can in this cause. I cannot positively identify which Gospels were purloined by the Pope. I can only guarantee that it did occur, from his confession. I am remotely familiar with 2 of the 8 books the Pope had removed or lost, and they were 1. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and 2. The Gospel of Thomas.
Now, understand that those are not the only books. When the Council of Nicaea removed them, there was a lot more books. You have to ask yourself, why did these people take it upon themselves, if this was the holy writings of God and the collections thereof, that they would say, well, we think we know better and we should remove these books? That then tells me those are books I want to see. Most of you guys have never even heard of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene that she wrote, or they jotted down, the information that she's talked about in her times of being with Jesus, or that there was a gospel of what's his name? They just found this one recently. Judas. Whoa, what? Yeah, Judas wrote a gospel too. He wanted people to know the truth. I found his version quite interesting. But what are the other books? I'm glad you asked. Once again, this is more so stuff I'm going to be doing on my James, or excuse me, on my YouTube channel under the Badwolf Media or Badwolf Unincorporated. But yeah, check it out. The complete 54 Apocrypha text. Apocrypha means hidden. Apo, cryptic. And it has all everything from Enoch. Enoch is fascinating in fire. Okay. They talk about the giants that were around in the old days. Jasper, Jubilees, um, a lot more in here. There's 54. And I don't think this one has Magdalene or Judas because this was in 22, and I think in 23 or 4, they discovered those other two. So even this is not complete. Even the hidden stuff has hidden stuff. Y'all think y'all got the truth? You ain't got nothing. The stuff I'm giving you, yeah. And there's still yet stuff above my pay grade that I can't get my hands on because I'm not high enough in wealth or status or position. So, but that which I can, I'll bring to you guys if I can. If I can't, something's got to stay secret, I guess. Let's get back to it. But yeah, so for those of you guys who believe in God and the Bible and all that good stuff, what you thought you had the whole story? How about we throw in the fact that Adam and Eve had their own gospels too, and that there was a woman before Eve named Lilith, Adam's first wife, made equal to him in all the ways, and that there were humanoid beings here before them. Too much? Okay. Believe as you need to believe, do as you need to do. But when you start asking questions, was it really an apple that they ate? Hmm. A lot of interesting things when you start to read the old text and the original translations. It's kind of a lot of power people have if you take knowledge from one language to another language. There's power there. And if you say we're going to burn all the other books and texts, but keep one or two for ourselves hidden, but then we're going to give you guys our sanitized, watered down versions and our interpretations of these particular words used. Man, is it deep. Let's get back to it, good people.
In the Gospel of Thomas, the disciple reveals that Christ taught, "The kingdom of God is inside you and not in the wood and stone of your buildings.
Facts.
Split a piece of wood and I am there, turn over a stone and there you will find me." Certainly Pope Innocent III had to eliminate the Gospel of Thomas. How could the Holy Roman Church justify its opulence, comfort and wealth with words like these in the Holy Bible? The Gospel of Mary Magdalene is pretty much a given, when one considers how the purloined version of the Holy Bible and the Holy Roman Church defile her. In the Gospel of Mary, Mary reveals her marriage to Jesus. Remember the wedding wherein Christ turned water into wine? Well, according to Mary Magdalene, that is described as their wedding, and Mary the mother was in charge of the reception and had underestimated the quantity of food and wine. Mary Magdalene further discloses that during the crucifixion of Christ, Jesus reportedly cried out, "Forgive them not, Father, for they know what they do." The purloined version of the Holy Christian Bible certainly offers a less pretentious version synonymous to docility. Certainly, Pope Innocent III had to eliminate the Gospel of Mary too, since it contradicted 1. The Pope's efforts to make Christians more docile and 2. The tenets decided at the Council of Nicaea. At the Council of Nicaea, it was decided by the Roman pagan priests that Christ must be treated as a living God, and since gods are devoid of the usual human traits such as intercourse and marriage, all priests must emulate the Christ, and are forbidden to marry. Page 64 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Secondly, it was agreed at Nicaea that Christ may forgive and bless a prostitute who has repented like Mary Magdalene, but he would never become associated with such a woman. What obtuse and hypocritical thinking! At the seminary, priestly candidates are even taught how to flex their hand when conducting a blessing, so to better emulate the oldest memories and the most famous paintings of Jesus Christ. In my opinion, the Bible in its present form encourages Christians to be dull, docile and overly forgiving and tolerant of others in all situations. According to the Gospel of Mary, Christ never intended nor expected that for Christians. I also believe that the other 6 books of the Bible that Pope Innocent helped to eliminate reveled a history about ET visitors with incredible powers, which probably revealed too much information about the foundation of religion, or these 6 Gospels were so far above the Pope's intellect and comprehension that he couldn't make any sense of them. I could be completely wrong. That's
Keep in mind, I just showed you a book that contains 54 of them. So in this case, yeah, Judge Dale, you're wrong. But once again, we generally speak from the level that we obtain. So at the time of the writing of this, probably that's all that was available. And understand, this document itself is even though it's been somewhat updated by, I think, by probably other groups or whatever else, it's in the information that they knew at the time, and they may not have gone on to learn more things. So once again, somebody with more knowledge, but not all of the knowledge.
That's just one man's opinion. I had this thought, which I cannot confirm or deny, and I only offer this to you, purely out of speculation. Given the unusual pregnancy of Mary of Nazareth and the unusual talents and abilities of her child named Jesus Christ, it may have been very possible that extraterrestrial visitors who frequented Earth, equipped with a highly developed level of science, fulfilled God's plan by artificially inseminating his chosen subject, Mary of Nazareth, with a most unique cloned seed. It is documented that during his early years, Christ would frequently disappear for extended periods of time, and when confronted about his disappearances, his explanation was always that he was either meditating or he was doing his Father's work. Very little has ever been written or discovered about Christ during those teenage years, which might be because during those long disappearances, Christ was actually being educated and his mental and physical prowess was increasingly being enhanced by his mentors. There are so many unanswered questions about our past, and frankly I never would have considered or offered the above speculation, if not for various pieces of information and details that have voluntarily been intimated to me by legitimate individuals over the past 30 years. E.g., a videotape of the crucifixion of Christ, viewed by a former U.S. president of my age group, and existing treaties between the United States and 3 extraterrestrial civilizations, which permits the periodic abduction and testing of. Page 65 of 94. The Great American Adventure. American citizens and the construction of underground bases, in exchange for technology, and even an astronaut exchange program. The creation of tens of underground cities and miles of connecting corridors, and space mining, space bases and transporters called stargates, just to name a few. The Holy Roman Church.
I've heard of everything that was mentioned there, and of course now we do have a space program, more so than just NASA. As far as the rest of it, don't know, can't prove any of it, but it would make sense to me. But once again, Do your own research, believe what you want to believe. I'm not here to convince you or not convince you, just presenting information. Maybe this will fill some holes in for some thoughts, or maybe it'll have some thought-provoking things. But once again, you are grown, or you should be if you're watching my channel. But yeah, nonetheless, just be open to things. If you want to do a dive for yourself, get the pamphlet. It's on the internet for free. Read through it and then do some research. If you guys can find out, anything interesting that you can vet and send me, or if you have a good inside tip or whatever else on how to do certain things, let me know, and maybe I'll make a video of it. All right, let's go.
Catholics have always been prohibited from questioning the Pope and the precepts of the Church, for a very good reason, which will be explained as you read on. All popes and the privately owned corporate Holy Roman Church have always been a major player in shaping world politics, governments, commerce and mines, since the early Roman Empire and continues to do so to this date. The Roman Church was originally a pagan church and remained so under Roman Emperor Constantine. The advent or appearance of Jesus Christ and his new Christian religious movement called Christianity, and the religious wars that ensued, caused Emperor Constantine to rethink his position as the pagan emperor of Rome. So, upon the orders of Constantine, at the Council of Nicaea, the pagan priests of the Roman Church were ordered to begin the difficult and tasteless task of attempting to blend Christianity and paganism together to create one church, to be called the Holy Roman Church. Christ was an unusual man and prophet, with some typical human traits, and at the Council of Nicaea, the pagan priests decided that Christ must be perceived as a living God, and as a living God, any suggestion or possibility that Christ took a spouse must be removed from the scriptures, and thereafter priests were forbidden to marry. Page 66 of 94. The Great American Adventure. The Holy Roman Church actually remained more pagan than Christian, and Emperor Constantine would eventually submit to what he considered to be the indignity of baptism, just months before his natural death. Historians for the Vatican made certain that Constantine would be depicted as a reformed man and Christian emperor, but that was not exactly accurate or true. Note: the pagan influence in the Holy Roman Church explains the outward discrepancies between the organization of the Church and the Holy Scriptures, such as ostentatious buildings and religious garb, idol worship, purgatory, exorcisms, excommunications, saints, demons, the hoarding of wealth and antiquities, which always existed in the ancient pagan cult. Most people do not know that there are two popes. The White Pope is responsible for the administration of the Holy Roman Church, and the Black Pope is a Jesuit and mercenary and is responsible for eliminating people and problems affecting the Church, with extreme prejudice. The Vatican today is a privately owned, corporate, money-driven and self-interested religious cult. It is a front for the Italian P2 Masonic Lodge or Illuminati, which is routinely involved in murder for hire, gambling,
Whoa,
pedophile
whoa,
sex
whoa.
and white slavery.
Now, I don't know any of this for sure. I'm not going to say that they're not connected, but what I do know of the Masonic lodges and the Illuminati is that they're players on the big half, but generally they do not um like you don't just join like Masonic lodges, then you get into the Illuminati. Those are different things. Um, I do know that there's been corruption in either of them in different ways, but as far as like what Judge Dale here is saying, there that I don't know. I've never been able to see that. They may be. I could be. I'm not defending them. I'm not for them or against them. I'm just saying that um, they've all dealt with each other. We'll just say, and we'll just say that uh, there's been many times where most of these players do not like each other. Okay, I'll give you that. That's what I do know. I can say that. But as far as the rest, I couldn't tell you 100%, but let's keep going.
Vatican City, is one of 3 privileged and autonomous city-states, which also coordinates elite Pan-American global organized crime for the Western banking cabal. The other 2 city-states are Washington, D.C. and the City of London. The Holy Roman Church has become identified as the center of the world's spiritual leadership. The City of London has become identified as the center of world finance, and Washington, D.C. has become identified as the center of world military power. All 3 are inseparable in philosophy and yet separate, corporate centers in their own right. E.g., Vatican City is immune from Italian law, London is immune from British law, Washington, D.C. is immune from state law, and all 3 are collectively the unified center of a secret society and criminal cabal called the Illuminati, and their headquarters is the United Nations building in New York City, the proposed capital city for their New World Order. Proof of both the United Nations and the City of New York can be located in the United States Code. During World War II, the hierarchy of the Vatican freely supported the Nazi program for world domination, and Pope Pius XII personally rendered his blessing upon Adolf Hitler, Baron Rothschild. As mentioned before, during this expose, King George eventually gained control over the new government of America, but he did not lay any new claim to the Page 67 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Colonial land because of another treaty entered into by his predecessor, King James, in 1213. The Treaty of 1213 was between King James and Pope Innocent III of the Holy Roman Church. Google the Treaty of 1213 and read it for yourself. Like most historic kings, James was not an intelligent man and was easily manipulated by Pope Innocent III. King James had been excommunicated by the Holy Roman Church because of having given his royal assent to an aristocratic document titled the Magna Carta, which in part recognized the dukes and lords as sovereign and which prevented the return of their estates to the king upon their death. King James had been forced into signing this document to avert a rebellion. James also realized that the Magna Carta would now deprive him of his income on those estates and their resale upon the death of the dukes and lords, so he invoked an ancient law he remembered, titled the Law of Mortmain, or the Dead Man's Hand, which established the basis of the current probate courts in America. Probate provides for a tax or percentage of the decedent's estate be paid to the king, upon the distribution of a dead man's estate, and the failure to pay this tax resulted in the ownership in the estate being sold by the court. To pay the tax and absent a valid last will and testament, the estate is returned to the king. In America, the same laws apply and the estate is returned to the state. The Magna Carta and the Law of Mortmain upset Pope Innocent III because it placed the lords and dukes on equal footing with the sovereign king and His Holiness, the Pope, and the Law of Mortmain prevented Catholic parishioners from willing the deeds to their homes and land to the church, by obligating the church to pay the king's probate tax. Pope Innocent III retaliated by excommunicating King James, and he also issued a decree, declaring that the Magna Carta was an affront to God and the Holy Roman Church, and therefore was unlawful. King James was eventually convinced by Pope Innocent III that because of his excommunication, that upon the king's death, his soul would be condemned to purgatory. Out of his fear of purgatory, King James made a serious act of contrition to regain the favor of the Holy Roman Church and the Pope, whom the king now regarded as God's only living representative on earth. The Treaty of 1213 spelled out King James' concessions: 1. Giving the land titles of Ireland, England and France to the Holy Roman Church, 2. The lands and oceans of the earth, 3. The payment of 1,000 gold marks each year, and 4a. Page 68 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Royal Decree, which declared the Pope the Vicar of Christ, meaning the only living descendant of Peter, Christ's appointed representative on earth. Note: all royalty is an historic prevarication, but man has accepted their presence like a bad government. Devout Christians might argue this point, but realistically, somebody has to be in charge, whomever they are, to maintain order and organize protection from other nations. The Holy Roman Church and all future popes would all pursue other avenues to gain similar treaties and control around the world, which is much easier to accomplish if you are the vicar of Christ. And this does, however, explain England's historic thirst to conquer other nation countries around the world. King James' royal decree that all the lands and seas of earth was the property of the Holy Roman Church eventually became the impetus behind the change in American land titles from allodial deeds to fee simple deeds, which utilizes the ancient Roman trusts as a model. The ancient Roman trusts. Remember the story about crazy Nero setting fire to Rome? Well, it happened, but he wasn't crazy. He and the Roman Senate arranged that one and blamed it on the Christians as a distraction. Problem is that the fires were predominantly set in the Christian section. So what was behind this? After the fires had burned out, the Roman Senate created a land trust, and into the trust they entered all of the estates of Romans who owned property. Then by royal decree, they declared that all of these property owners had died in the Great Fire, and the Senate was appointed the trustees for these estates. As trustees, they could demand a percentage of the crops and excessive taxes. If the owner couldn't pay, he went to prison or surrendered his daughters as bond slaves. If the original owner died, the estate was sold, usually to a member of the Senate, and the gold held in the trust. All that the original estate owner had to do to stop this insanity was to hire a scribe and decree that he did not die in the Great Fire and was in fact alive and quite capable of managing his own estate, and serve it on the Senate. Few Romans were intelligent enough to know what to do and subsequently lost everything. All land deeds in colonial America used to be allodial deeds, which recognized our individual sovereignty and ownership, whereas fee simple deeds only. Page 69 of 94. The Great American Adventure recognizes the state and are an open-end deed that are never closed or finalized. What does this mean, you ask? Allodial recognizes you as the king of your land. You make the rules on your land, and nobody and no government can trespass upon your property. You, the king, are revered and respected and have an absolute right to use lethal force to protect your property. No government can tax your land, and the title is passed down from parent to child or husband to wife, etc. No bank will ever lend money against an allodial property because the bank has no way to foreclose against it, but it will lend money against your chattel, livestock or crops. Fee simple recognizes you only as a tenant on the property. The state makes the rules on your land, and anybody can trespass upon your property. You actually lease the property from the land trust, which belongs to the Holy Roman Church. The deed can only be passed down to family members upon your death, but not before your descendants open an estate in probate, which means that the state receives a percentage of everything the decedent once owned. If the descendants are short of cash, the property is auctioned off, or a loan, mortgage, can be obtained from a bank. In a loan situation, the deed to the property is encumbered by the bank. This means that the bank is entitled to be satisfied first if the loan, mortgage, is defaulted on for non-payment. This process is better known as foreclosure. The banks have arranged for the Vatican, the judge, the clerk, the bank, and the lawyer to each receive a piece of the foreclosure. If you are unmarried and you fail to leave a last will and testament, the state can reclaim your property and leave your descendants with nothing.
Facts.
With this change in deeds, a land trust was created for these fee simple deeds, and the Holy Roman Church was designated the owner of the trust.
Because being held in fee simple is free, allodial. But you guys don't know how to claim that. You don't know how to make it private. It's for a split second when you bought your property, it was private, and then they say, "Oh, well, you need to register it under your name, and then register it to the with all that to the city or the county or the state or whatever you got going on." And in their jurisdiction, it went. There's no law that says you have to register your property.
Trust. The state and the courts become the trustees, and we Americans become a corporate tenant. Now here's where things get sticky. In every trust, there is an owner, a trustee, and a beneficiary. The owner cannot be the trustee and neither of them can become the beneficiary, so we ignorant human beings have been appointed as the beneficiaries of the trust. Into the trust they have entered other valuable property. Birth certificates of. Page 70 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Corporations, our birth certificates and our Social Security accounts, which are converted into national securities and marketed as mutual fund investments. The trick is how to avoid giving these ignorant humans the benefits of the trust. And the solution arrived at by these lawyers/politicians is to convert those ignorant humans into subcorporations. Corporations are companies and as such, have no inalienable rights. You've got to admit that these people are clever?
That's by the use of the legal name. They turned you into a legal person, an ens legis. And they also then regard you as the trustee, which is a member of theirs. But you don't work for the bar, so they consider you to be a bar member, but just a low level functionary bar member.
Americans who believe they have just purchased a home and land have been lied to by the government, the bank, and their lawyer. They all lie as a precaution against inciting another American revolution. Everything is about commerce/money.
Well, you did buy it. You just didn't own it long. And when you bought it, you also paid it off already. So your house, everyone's listening to me right now. If you own a house, it's already paid off. I've got files and videos on that. We've already been winning in court. Some are easier than others. I do not do the work. I just educate you on what you educationally, for informational purposes, entertainment reasons, can, should, possibly, should win. A majority have. Some are still in the process. Some quit. Some were made an offer behind closed doors and no longer communicate what transpired with me. It's a game, people. You got to know how to move your piece on this board, checkered in white and black. Let's keep going.
Money. It rules the world and it rules your lives. In the small type of all fee simple deeds is the wording that specifies that the buyer is the tenant and not the owner. Your lawyer set up that little piece of fraud, never told you about it, and then charged you a fee for his services. And America keeps electing these.
So, in other words, for those people who are getting ready to buy a house, or one of the avenues you can use is what they just said here. You want them to force them to list you as the owner, not the tenant. This is one of the pieces I teach you in the videos on jamesclovett.com. If I were to buy another property, you bet your sweet bippy I'm going to be labeled as the owner. I ain't going to be labeled as a tenant. I didn't know what I know now then. I went ahead and made accelerated payments, which I don't care if you're only making $1 or $20 or whatever, you can pay more than the base minimum. I shaved off 15 years plus by making extra payments. It sucked. I didn't get to eat and go to the places I wanted to go, but yeah, I got there. But if I was ever to buy another one at this point in time, this is one of the things I'm going to make sure are done properly.
These lawyers to high political offices, and you wonder why your life is so much harder today than it was for your parents? Hell, they were just getting started. That's not all. in the small print of the deed is a poorly worded contract between you and the state government, wherein you consent to pay the property taxes on this deed and directs the state to send the tax notice in care of your name and address, and by signing all of the deed transactions, you have agreed to another fraudulent debt. The tax debt guarantees that you can never own or reside on that property without paying. Whatever happened to that nest egg we were taught to believe in? Your lawyer set up that tax debt too, and he receives a large percentage of your first tax bill for arranging that one.
Dirtbag.
Caveat emptor. Let the buyer beware. Beware of the politicians and lawyers. The ecclesiastical laws of England, Ireland, France, and America now give the Pope absolute superiority.
So let's take a look at this. Beware of the politicians and the lawyers. What are they really saying here? Policy, politic, political, police, poly, more than one, Ishins, magicians, the policy magicians, multiple policy magicians, and the lawyers, crafters of the law, liars.
Superiority over all governmental laws, decisions, and orders governing these countries. That would normally be a reasonable concession to God. However, the Vatican is a cult and is all about power, control, and wealth. Page 71 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Masked by the veil of a national religious cult, supervised by the false Vicar of Christ. In all fairness, many of the individual parish priests are gentle, religious, and well-meaning people who are just as confused about everything as you are. It is the Jesuits and the priests who are promoted to bishop and cardinal who you need to be wary of. They are generally more politically aggressive and corrupt than they are religious. Didn't you ever wonder why priests are never prosecuted for pedophile sex or drunken driving? It is because the Vatican is at the center of the Illuminati P2 group, and that is part of their business. The Vatican is in bed with them, and the Pope can exonerate everybody and absolve them of their crimes and sins. Priestly perversions make it virtually impossible for a fallen priest to ever leave the church, because once he does, he is no longer protected by the church. Every time a priest slips up, the Pope gains a permanent soldier who cannot refuse a Vatican accommodation.
Do you guys see this now?
Note:
Do you guys get it? Do you hear that? Now, I am not against the church. I actually am a God-fearing person, but I do believe somewhere in the Bible it does say that there will be hell to pay for those who misguide the children, meaning even us as adults of God. And now you understand why I don't know why anybody in their right mind, and I'm not saying all churches or priests or whatever are bad. I'm not saying that. But there's no way I would leave my offspring with anyone in general, and definitely not any of them. I don't trust the teacher. I don't trust the Pope. I don't trust the cop. I don't trust a priest. No, 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 no. Especially not somebody who can be dealt justice or the law. But now you guys understand why. All right, let's keep going.
Remember the proverb: power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Nothing could be more truthful. In all fairness, you all need to know that except for about 1/2 dozen of the men who we have elected to a state or national political office, are actually much more corrupt than any of you ever imagined. They have sex slaves, perform mind control experiments upon them, take drugs, arrange murders, engage in pedophile sex, prostitution, and have been involved in white slavery and the sale of children and teenagers to foreign potentates. Anything for a buck and for their personal pleasure, with absolutely no accountability or conscience. They are the true sociopaths of this society and should be in prison, and I am not excluding any of the United States presidents, congressmen, or heads of state in this description. Except for those 6, there wasn't a good one among them, and that's the absolute truth. They are only half at fault because we stupid Americans put them there and never paid any attention to what they were doing, and we accepted every lie they told us. Page 72 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Slave driving. The high contracting powers in Europe and America have decided that we common, illiterate and unwashed slaves are better off not having this and other knowledge or information readily available to us, because that would make us all as intelligent as they are, and that could make us difficult to control. Intelligent slaves have always been perceived as a threat to plantation owners, emperors, monarchs, dictators, and other despots, and we common folk are perceived by them in the same light. As hard and tasteless as this comment is to digest, the middle and poor classes are viewed by all governments and by the royal and elite of the world as ignorant slaves that require management, by and through slave driving program techniques. Point 2. Too many slaves are much too difficult to control, and so programs to reduce populations in addition to wars have constantly been engineered and employed without our consent or knowledge. E.g., hence, the recent growing number of cancer and AIDS patients and other diseases, which have been created by government laboratories under military defense contracts, were then introduced into our society by air, water, and contaminated blood. E.g., during World War II, Nazi scientists experimented with a toxic substance called fluoride and discovered that watered-down doses of fluoride ingested over a long period of time makes the human mind more malleable or easier to influence. Other tests involving an acid compound called chlorine, ingested in small doses over an extended period of time, severely injures the human immune system. Today, all public water in America is treated with chlorine and fluoride chemicals, and we have all been told for the last 70 years that this is good for us. E.g., all humans should actually be ingesting small doses of alkaloids applied or added to their boiled drinking water to maintain their natural immunity from childbirth. All human children are born with an alkaloid system. However, due to the health benefits derived from alkaloids, the U.S. government has prohibited the sale of all water purification devices that alkalizes drinking water. The abuse of alkaloids, however, like all abuses, is just as detrimental to human health as acids and poison, so care should be employed. China or Japan manufactures an alkaloid purification system, which can be purchased by mail order only. Another popular slave driving technique involves racial disunity. Kings and governments intentionally stir up problems between the various countries and races, which causes fights and murders between these groups, and once they get 2. This is confirmed in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars Technical Manual, 1979, http://anticorruptionsoci.files.wordpress.com/2013/06/silentweaponsforquietwars.pdf. Page 73 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Out of control, officials step in and kill or imprison everyone they can. At present, the big move is to create racial disunity between the American masses and immigrants from the Middle Eastern countries or with the Latin and South America ethnicities. If you are one of those American people who hate the Mexican and or the Muslim immigrants in America, then you are probably not too awfully bright, because you are being handled and manipulated by Uncle Sam with extreme prejudice. The same thing was done to Japanese American families during World War II, and they were totally innocent of any wrongdoing. Other slave driving programs. Most people actively participate and cooperate in these slave driving programs. I'm certain you won't like reading this, but the most identifiable programs involve our professional sports competitions such as football, baseball, wrestling, etc. Team sports are much easier to manipulate because they involve so much activity, whereas wrestling is the only sport that appears phony all of the time, even when participants are paid extra to physically assault each other. Just so you understand, all of these professional athletes truly are the consummate athletes in their own right, and it really would be quite a spectacle to watch them legitimately attempt to win a competition, but It could also result in their last and cost them a profitable career, so games, matches and coaches need to be manipulated. The offer of large salaries helps smooth over the athlete's conscience, and in time they lose their conscience, just like actors and politicians. Sorry to break your bubble, but that's life, and we are being manipulated. All of the players occasionally suffer real injuries from accidents, but it still amounts to nothing more than the glitz and glimmer of Hollywood, just on a different plane or level. The purpose of these professional sports is to entertain the masses and to inflate and expand commerce. It's all about the money. Unfortunately, the public is bamboozled into paying horrendous prices to view these sports competitions. They are huddled into stadiums with uncomfortable seating and sometimes exposed to the elements. They are usually offered expensive refreshments to purchase, and members of the public are encouraged or enticed to wager bets on the outcome of each competition. The team owners receive a percentage of those bets in exchange for a prearranged list of wins and losses, a percentage of the ticket sales, concessions, television advertisements, and merchandising. The owners even attempt to. Page 74 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Perform like they are elated or concerned, but it's all an act. It's all about the money. Former athletes are hired by the media to discuss the players, teams, forecast the outcome, and narrate the competitions. These star narrators help add more drama to the game, and they help cover up bad acting and botched plays by legitimizing or chastising the actions of plays, referees, coaches, and players who react, get kicked out, strike out, miss a shot, push an opponent, miss a block, or drop a pass. It's all good because drama sells tickets, increases betting, and sells merchandise, and we pay the price. The success of these professional programs also encourages high schools and colleges to entertain similar athletic programs because of the extra collateral that can be earned for the schools, and they unwittingly help to legitimize the professional sports. High schools and college teams play legitimate sports, so naturally those spectators are more likely to expect and believe the same amount of legitimacy will continue in the professional sports too. All of these sports promote combat, competition, and separate and eliminate the weak from the strong. Strong slaves are more productive, it's a fact. These sport competitions help drive the public mind to pay little attention to what government and business is doing to them, and they help promote sales, patriotism, and loyalty before each competition. All of this creates and sustains a multi-billion-dollar commercial enterprise and government from which the royal and elite classes all profit. Credit and debt. Credit scores. I believe you first need to understand the purpose behind credit scores. The credit scoring system is another slave-driving program that was devised by the Federal Reserve System and with the blessing of the high contracting powers. Its purpose is to squeeze more cash out of borrowers and to force the public into becoming loyal conditioned slaves. First of all, when you apply for a mortgage, you are requesting a loan of their valueless currency to purchase a home or automobile, which you can never own and upon which you pay a penalty, called interest and costs. Those who are approved for a loan are watched closely to see if they have swallowed the fraud, hook, line and sinker, and follow the repayment instructions fully. Those who can't follow their directions, lost a job, or financially overextended themselves are rated badly, credit scores, and are penalized severely then and whenever they apply again, called points. Page 75 of 94. The Great American Adventure. The personal information you provide to them when applying is also sold to other financial institutions and collection agencies. They tell you no, but unless you take the time to read all the fine print, they bluffed you again. Some merchandising companies have or perform a type of collection process first as a courtesy, and when you fail to bring your payments up to date, they discharge the debt and sell the discharged debt to collection agencies for pennies on the dollar. These collection agencies are all owned by law firms who hire people to contact you and attempt to collect the original debt plus penalties for them. They do not represent the merchandising company, they represent their own business and probably paid $25 for a $300 discharged debt. If they can persuade you to begin making payments to them, that creates a contract between you and the collection agency regarding a debt that no longer exists. When a debt is discharged, it means that your agreement with that company is canceled for good. Those lawyers really are pretty clever. If you are a compliant slave, your credit rating will be high, and yet there really isn't a difference between the borrower who has perfect credit and the borrower who has poor credit, as I will discuss next under home mortgages. It is all a corporate fraud to increase their wealth and deplete yours. Home mortgages. Whenever you apply for a loan, you are requested to sign a promissory note for the total amount of the loan. Then a payment account is established. The promissory note is never endorsed by a member of the financial institution so that it can be sold without your permission. 3 days later, the original promissory note, signed in ink, is sold to another institution or foreign government, who will collateralize it or use it like a bond and issue currency or loans against it. Why the 3 days? It is because you have the right to withdraw from or cancel any contract within 3 days of acceptance. It is about the only right we have left, and it may be found under the Truth in Lending Act. All that matters to the bank is that you are a flesh and blood human being and that you have affixed your signature to a promissory note. They don't care if you have a great credit score or a poor one. Flesh and blood human beings technically own everything, and all corporations are fictional companies that have no value and cannot function until some human being blows life into them. The promissory notes each sell for the same value. Page 76 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Since the promissory note was sold without your permission, your mortgage debt to them is actually paid in full, but they never tell you about that. In fact, the bank also sells your repayment plan to an investor or another bank for much less, and agree to manage the payments for them. Most banks now employ a middle company to collect your mortgage payment. They do this because your mortgage and repayment plan is not reflected on the bank's bookkeeping, and under federal and international law, it is supposed to. So the middle companies act as a buffer and keeps them out of trouble. Since the banks can't legally make loans against their depositors' assets, everything is just a paper chase. Your payments are deposited into the investor's account who purchased it, and if it involves another bank, your payment is transferred to that bank where it is deposited into a savings account, under a number instead of your name.
Numbered account,
The
told you.
reason the account is numbered is because it is really your savings account. You don't owe them a debt, and so they conceal your payments as a numbered savings account. If they included your name, they would have to mail you a monthly accounting, and that would tip you off. So any foreclosure that might occur.
So once again, your house is paid off. They have an account owing you money. They treat you as the trustee when you're the beneficiary. They give a numbered account because then it's not looked at as yours. I was telling you guys this stuff years ago. People out here not believing me, like I do this for fun. I do this for fun, Mike. Okay? And I recuerdo in the morning, she loved me. I told you guys this. And at first, I didn't believe it myself until I started asking questions and getting doors closed on me and emails going quiet, and hung up on the phone and did my own accounting and was like, oh. Let's keep going. Yeah, I'm ready.
Occur thereafter is totally bogus and unlawful because they cannot produce the original promissory note. If demanded, they will produce a black and white photocopy, but that is actually the counterfeiting of a negotiable instrument unless it is reduced or enlarged. The point being that if they cannot produce the original note, it was sold. Given these circumstances, it was absolutely necessary for them to involve the judges in their criminal conduct. Foreclosure judges receive 10% of the original promissory note after they authorize the bank to steal and sell your assets in foreclosure. This process essentially makes the rich man richer and explains how the banks can own the bulk of the skyscraper buildings, parcels of land, and stadiums across America. In reality, we pay for our homes 3 times over its original purchase price without ever securing ownership. Mr. Warburg was a pretty ingenious fellow when he designed the Federal Reserve System and why we Americans always need to be 2 steps ahead of the banks, courts and lawyers. According to the Constitution, the only way you can pay a debt is with silver or gold, and since there is no silver or gold-backed currency, the
Say
only
it.
thing we can do is to discharge our debts.
Did you hear that? Put the camera on me. Put the camera on me. Did you hear that? Now you understand why so many people say out there we can't pay debts. You're not paying a debt. Everything that you've put money on, well, if you really want to know, it's already prepaid. But let's leave that alone for now. Um, we can't pay debts. Those debts are being, if you want to use the word, no. I refuse. I said good day. Those debts are being compensated with other debts. Look at your money. For all debts, public and private, it's a debt note. It's a dead note, death note. Mortgage means death pledge. You can only pay things off with gold and silver, so you're not really paying anything off. You're just satisfying the debt with a discharge, paying debts with debts. When you learn how to move in lawful money, and to those people out there who are doing pretty well after listening to a lot of my knowledge and doing such, you understand that when dealing with lawful money, you're helping to pay down the national debt. And wait till you guys find out one day who the national debt is owed to. Oh, what? You guys never thought about that? I mean, there's a national debt, there's a world debt. Who do we owe? Y'all better start asking the right questions around here. There's a new sheriff in town. Well, I'm the constable of the nation of Lovitica, so I guess there's a new constable in town. Let's get back to it. Shebang, shebang a boing. Welcome to the shebang a bang. Ah, yeah. Pull up a chair and stay a while.
Debts. A discharge is never a payment in full, and it can be resold or borrowed against. Hence, lawyers purchase discharged debts for pennies on the dollar, open a collection company and hire people to harass you into paying that debt to them.
Facts.
Page 77 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Remember that in all legitimate contracts you always received something of equal value from the company or person you borrowed from. Collection companies fail to provide you with anything of equal value and lie to you that they are collecting the debt on behalf of the original creditor. The best way to handle a debt collector is to deny who you are and every question they ask. Interesting note, in Libya, a citizen can apply for a home mortgage or business loan from the government, interest-free, and he owns the land. In most cases, a citizen who desires to start a business like farming, the borrower is given a $50,000 grant or the land, a tractor, the seed and livestock to get started all for free. And our government has the audacity to call Muammar Gaddafi a fascist? President Gaddafi had control over $200 billion in gold and his life was threatened by the criminal cabal if he refused to surrender that gold. Gaddafi refused and was subsequently murdered by paid assassins hired by the United States government. May he rest in peace. Corporations. As I mentioned earlier, a corporation is a fictional character or entity in law, created by the government, which makes that fictional character or entity the intellectual property of the government, but you are never told that. Corporations can own any number of other corporations but can never own a flesh and blood human being. All laws created under this parent corporation will essentially become corporate laws and regulations to govern the parent corporation and all subordinate or subcorporations owned by the parent. These corporate laws and regulations are called statutes, and their effect and control over human beings is deceptively obtained by consent through civil contracts. Look up the word person in any modern law dictionary, and you will see that a person is regarded as a corporation and not a flesh and blood human being. These civil contracts were secured by and through several federal and state voluntary registration programs designed to convert and enslave flesh and blood American citizens of the Republic into corporate property. These registration programs always involved government benefits as an inducement. However, nothing is for free, and when the state and federal governments offer anything for free, you can bet that upon your acceptance, there are ropes and chains about to be attached to your neck, hands, and ankles. Most people do not know the weight of chain they already bear. Charles Dickens. Page 78 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Legally, these civil contracts lacked mutuality, meaning that all registrants must understand the true nature and intent of the contract, and, subsequently, must knowingly accept or consent to the terms of those contracts. The government's subversive tactics perverts mutuality and lawfully eliminates any and all contractual relationships, as historically established by the International Law of Contracts, aka Uniform Commercial Code. The federal government, the BAR, and the courts rely upon the maxim that ignorance of the law is no excuse, which is capable of being thrown back in their deceptive faces through literacy, which is what this expose is attempting to provide to you. When a person is arrested or sued for a statutory regulation, also known as a criminal or civil law, he is actually being accused of violating a corporate regulation or corporate breach of contract. A civil contract that only exists over human beings by deception and fraud. There are no criminal laws in America. Rule 1 of the Federal Rules of Procedure, FCRP, used to specify this very fact. E.g., all laws are civil, which was later modified by the Judiciary Act to conceal this fact by creating one set of civil rules, FCRP, and one set of criminal rules, F.Cr.R.P. But this never changed the fact that there are no criminal laws in America. The Judiciary Act was necessary once common people began to represent themselves in court and uncovered this and other frauds. These rules of procedure and rules of court were originally designed and adopted to reduce confusion in the courts and was intended only for lawyers. However, this is not to say that the courts will not try to enforce them against non-lawyers. And by the way, there is no legislation which prohibits a common man to practice law without a license. Neither Lincoln nor
Now, they tried to use this one against me to say, oh, Mr. Lovett, are you practicing law without a license? Are you practicing law? And then he was going to turn around and say, do you have a license? I didn't fall for it by the grace of God. See, when they're saying here, see, there's no law that says you can practice law, but then they throw in without a license, meaning are you trying to be a judge, but you don't have a license? When you add that together, see, I can say I'm practicing law if I really wanted to say that, right? I can say that, freedom of speech. But when you use the word practice, that generally denotes that you're in the study thereof to do something that requires a license. Meaning they're trying to say, are you trying to act like a judge who's licensed in law? But you can't say. So I like to just go with I'm a study of law, or I study the law privately. Practicing means you're in the act of the law, you're act of doing, an act of learning. And then they say without a license, even though they can't really say this, but they will do this to try to get you in contempt. Now, I disagree that there aren't any criminal laws. There are criminal laws. You can do criminal things in America. But what they do is generally all these laws are civil, or what they call quasi criminal, which is no such thing. And they do these under commercial codes. But on the federal level, that's where they can look at all of these different jurisdictions and things. So there's different jurisdictions.
Clarence Darrow ever attended law school, neither was licensed, and each became a famous lawyer. This prohibition will be discussed next. Today, each judge representing a court of record is a lawyer and a member of the American Bar Association Union, and all these union judges have conspired to write a local rule of procedure, prohibiting non-lawyers from the practice of law without a license. This practice protected their treason, ensured work for the union membership bar lawyers, and is openly in violation of federal antitrust laws. Page 79 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Antitrust laws were intended to prevent large monopolies from forming because such monopolies can control prices, eliminate competition, and violates free enterprise, which is exactly what the BAR and this local rule of court intended to accomplish. Those antitrust laws have been modified so many times by bar congressmen that they now almost assist in the creation of large monopolies. Gee, how could that happen? A lawyer is issued a license to practice law, a license permitting him to do something unlawful. So how did he pay for his license when our government has abolished our right to possess or own silver and gold? The lawyer is paid with Federal Reserve notes, promissory notes, having no ascertainable value. So now, how is it that any lawyer is licensed to do anything? They aren't. So when a lawyer or a lawyer judge enters a court, they both come into that court with unclean hands to prosecute, defend, or judge. Unclean hands means that their appearance is reproachable and it makes them incapable of seeking or rendering a judgment or a conviction against anyone else. An old maxim of law says it all. Fraud vitiates everything. The federal and state governments are not real. They are privately owned corporations called governments. The judges are privately employed. Administrators called judges, and the law is nothing more than their corporate regulations called statutes. The courthouses are no longer public buildings but are privately owned structures called judicial centers or a Department of Justice, and the prisons are privately owned facilities that do not mention the city or county anywhere in its name.
Now, what's interesting about that is that this would then explain why they can tell you you can't bring your cameras into the courthouses or whatever else because they're private. And you've told them you're a U.S. citizen. You've told them that you are a member of theirs. They can tell their members whatever they want to do. If this was truly public, you would be able to bring it in there, unless it was a, um, there's certain it's hard. True lawful things are also considered private. So in a real private case, take for instance like Diddy's being tried federally. Federal, even though it's not really American, is still American based. And that's why you don't see any actual pictures of him, is because that's considered private. And he's being charged by the actual law. But these other things where you see these people in court on TV, it's all entertainment. It's all sham. It's all corporations, not real law. That's the crazy part. They're putting on a spectacle to keep you entertained in the news media, and all of the news outlets are owned by 7 major families. So they only allow what they want to be put out there, and this is entertainment. Are you not having fun?
Name. The public defenders, prosecutors, and police are not there to protect and serve the public, but to the contrary, they're
there to prosecute and sever. It was best said in the Transformers movie. To prosecute and sever. No offense to any of my good police officers and friends out there, military, whatever else. You guys just don't know what's really going on a legal level of things. They're not going to ever tell you these things. You'd have to talk to your commanding officers privately behind closed doors. They know what it is, and they're going to tell you. Either they're going to be cool and say, "Yeah, yeah, it's true," or they're going to say, "Ask that question again, and you'll be fired or reprimanded, and you'll lose your job and your pension and everything," just like they were threatened. They don't want the game being put out there because then the game is over. It's no fun when everybody knows the rules. It's fun when you get to penalize people. You don't give them the rule book and expect them to live their best life. Hell, no, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it. Well, I'll say it like this. I would find it entertaining if I had a field where only I knew where landmines were, and I had certain people telling them to run as fast as they can across the whole field to get to me, and the winner gets this prize. It would be entertaining because all these people would be enemies of mine or horrible people. I would probably find that entertaining. That's how they look at life for us. Most of these public people are just they're handlers on the top end. The people underneath them, your regular police and whoever else, they don't know any of this stuff. I've talked to high level police and officers and law enforcement. They know what this is. Back when I was going to become one of them, I was there. And it's just funny how some of them look at me now, but some of them are starting to wake up and they're asking me for guidance and understanding and help with their whatever. It's just interesting.
Are there to protect and serve the private corporation. The Vatican, judges, prosecutor, and clerk make money off of your conviction, and the private owners of the prison make money off of your incarceration.
And that gives them access to your Sesticate trust. And guess who owns a lot of the prison, the private prisons, who then set up contracts with the state to make sure that the prisons are filled, because then the state has a contract and agreement with the local law enforcement. So local law enforcement don't even understand that when they have these quotas and things, it's to make sure that the prisons are maintained. You think they ever really want crime to go away? They're making money. They're not here to keep the peace. They don't care about that. They also are not contracted to protect you. So guess who owns a lot of the investments or stocks or own directly these prisons other than these private elite people? Corporations in the music industry. And guess who they use to help keep people wild? Whole life. All you girls out there who are living in whole life, listening to the music, guess where you really got that from? Not because you were just like, oh, I just think I want to be a hoe today. They conditioned you to say it's fabulous, it's fun to be a hoe. These dudes, it's great to be in your soft guy era. Be weak, be soft. Now you should have a good balance, male or female, but they're teaching it to you through the music and through social media and some of these media stars that aren't even real. They're AI, they're bots, they're fake agents. They pay these people. So the music industry teaches you to be hoes and soft ass dudes, gang, and whatever else. It's okay. Everybody's doing it. You should be too. Have babies out of wedlock. Don't try to be with the dude. Just have one out. The system will take care of you. So then they make money there. You don't need a man, but then a man goes and enforces your dude to get money from him. And the police make sure that if he doesn't, they go and snatch him up. Another male. But yeah, you don't need guys. They preach that. They're the ones who started child support. They paid black women in the hood to make videos on child support. I don't need a man. And then the white women jumped in. I don't need a man. And I'm not saying you do to live. I'm just saying having a great actual real man in your life is a bonus. It's a wonderful thing, just like a wonderful woman. We need each other. Neither one of us are better than the other. This is the game. So the music industry puts that music out. You listen to it. You get conditioned. You live a whole lifestyle. The guys are taught to be either ghetto and gang drug related or soft, which means if they ever attacked us, every dude here would be so soft and pussy that they'd be like, "Oh, well, we can." And the music industry puts that out. The entertainment, the social media. Why do you think my channel is so small? Somebody talking about P Diddy right now can start a channel up and have 100,000 in a year, and I've been doing this for years, and I don't even have 100,000 subscribers yet because they shadow ban my information. They don't want you to learn the truth. But I do think everybody who has followed my channel, who are legit, who are good, who do want to learn and grow, and hell, even if it's just to watch it and you still want to do what you want to do, that's fine. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you a perspective you've never heard. So then the music industries, and like I said, I'll be talking more about this on the Bad Wolf Media channel or Bad Wolf Unlimited on my other those two YouTube channels. So then the music industry caters you to live that wild lifestyle. Jump down summer, living my best life, girl. Go ahead, bitch. Because they know through you females they can control the males. See, they couldn't control us before. They tried, it didn't work. But they said, let's control the women. Let's give them options they never had before. Let's make them think about these other things. I'm not saying it was wrong, but the method behind what they were doing was sinister. It's okay to be single and independent, but then they wanted you guys to be hoes and stupid and play games. And my mental health, I don't have mental health issues. You're the narcissist. You ever notice how all around the world everybody started to use, especially in the United States, the word narcissist at the same time? Come on, people. Y'all got to wake the hell up. So the music industries cater all that. They make money on you listening to the music and advertisement. They gain your attention. You're no longer reading books, acting like hoes, acting wild, doing street takeovers. Yeah, I'm young, I'm wild. My booty hole brown. I'm having a whole summer and then I'm gonna chill out and be a good, faithful woman. Now that my system's messed up, my pH is messed up, my womb is messed up, my head is messed up. But he's the problem. I dated 12 narcissists. I got a body count over 50. Yeah, that sounds great. Guys watching girls get mugged and not doing anything, being in their soft guy era. Man, that ain't my business. Well, I'm telling you this right now. Any kid is protected and safe by me. And if I can do something to help somebody without risking me or my family, I will do it. I am an American. I'm a man. I'm a Sigma male. And I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot do or who you should or should not be. That's up to you to decide. I'm just telling y'all, some of y'all ain't never had a good man in your life to know what one is. Some of y'all never had a good woman in your life to know what one is. You're entitled to feel how you want to feel, but understand that that is not a fact of law. That doesn't change the world how you feel. Your actions change the world, and good actions are what we general people need. So the music industry, and I digress, I'll get off of this, controls and runs so much you'd be surprised to find out who actually controls the music media, but we'll leave that alone for now. So the media, music moguls, and corporations push that lifestyle, and then that lifestyle leads you to either a court, a clinic, or the correctional facility known as a jail or a prison, and all makes them money. Y'all ain't hearing me. Let's keep going.
Incarceration. Everything you sign with a wet ink signature becomes a negotiable instrument in their world and is converted into a guaranteed asset, like a
Fact.
security or bond, because you are a real flesh and blood living person. Many judges and law firms own the government buildings and the prisons. Your presence in a prison also fuels a mutual fund investment. In their world, everything is fictional, and therefore your living status creates substance for their world both physically and in writing. Who pays for the bulk of these convictions? Page 80 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Remember those land trusts in the name of the Vatican? The prosecutor files a charge against you and the trust with the clerk. The clerk documents the case and appoints a judge as the administrator for the trust. You are brought before them and asked if you are the named person on the indictment, and they promptly advise you of your rights and the charge. It is your birth certificate that is actually on trial and being prosecuted, but you don't know that, and your court-appointed lawyer or privately hired lawyer never tell you. Upon your conviction, and you will be convicted, the land trust pays damages to all involved except you, because you are not real. The living you is the beneficiary of the trust and the corporate you is on trial. They consider that those trusts are for them, if they can access it. You never receive the benefits of the trust and you are sentenced to prison, probation, and/or fined. Rebellious or free-thinking individuals are usually ostracized, censored, punished, or stonewalled at every turn because they refuse to accept the propaganda and slave-driving techniques being forced upon them by their private corporate owners called the high contracting powers. We are all forced to submit to a forced education wherein the subject content has been fictionalized and is supervised by the Department of Education. We are periodically tested and graded to ensure that we have been sufficiently indoctrinated with these facts before being graduated. The carrot or rewards used to entice us into memorizing these false facts are words like cum laude, diplomas, intelligence quotients, college entrance exams, stats, and rewards like educational scholarships, grants, and the promise of a better job and life. And few ever receive the carrot. You are never taught the truth unless you are royalty, the elite, or you are a specially gifted individual. Naturally high intelligence, genius status, is an asset to the elite and the royal factions, and besides, you probably will figure everything out for yourself, and so they encourage such children to join them. Those who refuse are eventually eliminated with prejudice. Pharmaceutical companies is another one of the largest scams in America. The Congress and the Department of Defense poisons us, and the pharmaceutical companies provide drugs that treat the symptoms. They own all of the medical schools and make sure that new doctors never learn how to treat disease, only the symptom.
Fact.
When it was discovered that the juice of the marijuana plant, hemp oil, stimulated the human immune system, which in turn naturally eliminated every disease affecting the human body, the Congress made marijuana a Schedule I drug and the propagation, use or sale of it a felony crime. Page 81 of 94. The Great American Adventure. Use a juicer to extract the juice. It will not make you hallucinate unless you heat or smoke it, because heat changes the chemical composition. These companies make billions off of the medical profession, and they kick back a large portion of the profits to every congressman and president. Everything is about
Educationally speaking, and do your own research, consult a professional in any of that or anything before doing anything. This is for entertainment purposes only. All right. So apparently here, let's see, it's talking about part 5. So let's hold on a second. Okay, most of this they already talked about. Okay. Okay, here's a good part though. So this is where some of where I learned about the ink. Okay, so people ask me where I learned that from, right? Um, as you see here, basically, remember I told you guys that all these things are contracts. Okay, everything they do to you, no matter what, if it involves your name and you're not doing something criminal, it's a contract. Because in the United States of America, they got rid of slavery, so they can't force you to do anything unless you waive your rights by doing something criminal. Now, in the version of this I seen, and maybe it's been edited. Well, obviously I know it's been edited, but it used to say red ink is for the blood of the living man, the red rooty sand in which he stands, meaning on the soil, red blood means you're alive. They use black because black represents dead, death, debtor, and ethereal. Ethereal means to be created from nothing or pure energy. Magicians always are in what? Black. They're harnessing the ether energy to create. So they adopted the color black. They dressed their police in black, they dressed their judges in black, they write in black ink. You must use black ink, which represents also the blood of your doppelganger or the blood of your the dead man on the water. You're signing in dead man's blood with black ink. Blue presents admiralty, meaning you're in the water, but so you're in the same water, they're maritime jurisdiction, but you have your own ship. See, somebody must have rewrote this. This is different than the original one I seen like 20 years ago, but it is what it is. People do this all the time. Purple ink is royalty. That is true. Green ink is supposed to present equity. Gold is God. Gold ink. I think silver is angelic. And I think that's all that I can remember. Those are all the primary ones. This is why when doing business with them, they want you to sign in black ink. And they want to call it your signature, which is your sign of nature. Your sign, it's your sign. Sign of nature and your sign that you are mature. Your signature. Now, if you get the document, you can read through this. Um, Even though they covered some of this in the above, this is more of the condensed version. They do kind of line out a good number of tactics you can use to deal with divorce or contracts. So some of that is in here. Foreclosure. And then it goes into some of the basic, that's pretty much it. So that's it, guys. That is the well, y'all was gone and listening, and I was back here all ghetto. I took my shirt off. Nothing wrong with being ghetto sometimes. Got to put my nice shirt on so I can be respectable every once in a while. Feels weird. But that's it. You guys get the document. He made, or she, or whatever, like four, apparently now five. I think I've got three of them. As I locate and find the other ones, I'll make some videos on those as well. It's free information. Anybody can make videos on it, learn from it, and then let me know if you find out some of these things work and or if you have other tips, tricks, and techniques, or you work on the inside and you want to share some stuff. Of course, nothing that's going to get you or me in any trouble. We don't do that here. It's not that serious. A lot of people get into trouble because they do a lot of financial things and trying to get all this big money. I'll be honest with you. You guys want to know the truth about that stuff? Yeah, there is money there for you guys to get if you know how to do it the correct way. I don't bother with it, so I can't tell you how to do it the right way. But I'll tell you this, a lot of people will scam you in the hope to teach you that stuff while not showing you how they themselves have allegedly, which most of them haven't, gained access to it. But I'll also tell you this, if what I understand is true and to be true, if you were to access it and then you're going to share it on the internet, you will get a knock on the door because they can't afford to have all of that done properly, stuff I don't know how to do, out there in the public. Just makes sense. Why? Let's get to it real quick. Because the price of milk would be $1 million. If everybody's a millionaire, then that becomes the new level. And if that's the new level, then everything is going to go up in price. So not everybody can access these things and gain access to all these accounts and monies and whatever else. If you're out there in any of these groups and you think it's me talking to you, it's probably not. I'm far too busy with my family life, my own battles, reading these books, staying out of their way. So don't get scammed because I'm not responsible for that. And I will never ask you for your where you live, what's your social. I'm not going to tell you to invest in this crypto or whatever the hell. Send me money. Everything for me is done through blacksite32.com or jamesclovett.com. That's it. Those are my public interfaces. So are my social medias on there. I appreciate some of you guys thinking it's really me, but there's a lot of people build sites and all that stuff, especially now with AI and voice cloning and whatever else. At the end of the day, guys, no matter who you think it might be, don't send money or personal information or risque photos or whatever it might be because they'll use it against you. Matter of fact, personally, my cousin had his account hacked through Messenger. Don't you? If you use Messenger, don't open any attachments. It's trash. Messenger is trash. It takes forever to because then from Messenger they gain access to your Facebook and then any private pictures you've sent. And this is what happened to my cousin. Then the person goes, "Well, I'm going to share your pictures if you don't send me money or do whatever, they extort you." So make a good, complicated, long password. Have two-factor authentication on there. Do not open up anything on Messenger. Do not send anybody anything inappropriate or money in the first place. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoy this information. And once again, if anybody does know Candace Owens out there, show her the video or show her my channel. Put her on. I'll have her on. I'll come on her show. We can talk about this. Probably won't. Or anybody else. Send it to Joe Rogan or any of the rest of them. I don't care. Probably won't happen. I will probably, how should I say this? I will keep making these videos, but I made it this far to pass the torch to you guys. Everything that's in these videos, all 1,500 or 1,300, wherever I'm at, I don't even know now, are so that you guys can utilize 30 years of my knowledge and learn and all these things I've been through for your greater good, your family, you personally, and the next generations. For me, I've got a couple of final things I want to bring to you guys. I'll always continue to study this and I will make videos, but I'm going to slow down in making them. And I'm going to start focusing on my other two channels, which are the Bad Wolf or Bad Wolf Unincorporated, or excuse me, Bad Wolf Unlimited and the Bad Wolf Media channel on YouTube and some of my TikTok channels, okay, or and my Instagram. I'm gonna start go working on those because it seems like a lot of people like entertainment. They want to hear the words, the controversies, and thoughts on what's going on in the news and the media. Some of which more than what I do here. So if that's what you guys want, I'll be over on those channels and platforms, spreading that truth too, because there's a lot of truth to be told in there. And I'm going to ask you guys some questions. What do you guys think about this? You don't think this is interesting? Get you guys to do something the schools haven't, which is to use critical thinking, not to be emotionally based and biased. Your emotions, how I feel about the president or the this, that, or the other, how I feel doesn't matter. What are the facts? That's what matters. And if we don't agree, guess what I'm going to do with you? I'm going to tell you, let's agree to disagree. And I'll still be your friend and your fellow American and a true patriot to the United States of America. God bless everybody. You guys take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you guys later. Bad Wolf's over and out. Oh, would you mind hitting that bell, like, subscribe? I'll get the lights. You guys have a great day and an even better night. I'll talk to you later. Wolf.